Hello, welcome back to the Ineffableelse. Welcome to a new series. This time we will be focusing on the planet of Jupiter. Now this is the largest planet in our entire solar system. All of the other planets in the solar system could fit inside of Jupiter. It's that big. So it's no surprise that since antiquity it has been associated with enormous things. Gargantuan leaps. Birth, giving birth, and of course expansion in general. At the moment I have got Jupiter sitting, we all do, have Jupiter sitting at 1 degree of Aries. This happens to be the first degree of the zodiac and also my moon placement, so it's an intriguing place to be starting this series from. I was introduced to astrology for the first time during my previous Jupiter return, which was when it was in Libra. So everything I relay in relation to Jupiter will contain inflections of the Libra and Aries axis, which is always a good one, I think, as they fit on the equinox points. So they really do take us from the most individual to the most externally focused, relationship based. I also have my sun in Sagittarius. Jupiter is at home in Sagittarius. This is its domicile. It is where it feels most comfortable, and it is the energy that you may want to consider when thinking of Jupiter. I began trying to make this video in the park, and there was children and church bells and dogs and human behavior going on. I realized when I come to address this new series of Jupiter, I was going to have to get some elevation. So I've come up to the highest point in our town. If I keep looking over there, it's because I can see the mountain range, and it's impressive. And it gives me that extended, expanded perspective which both Sagittarius and Jupiter and the 9th house all call for. This is not going to be derivative. This is not going to be telling you to, ways to get rich quick. And, for example, something to do with The Secret, just manifest your dreams by thinking a certain way. No, this is going to be about how do we expand in every possible direction and be okay with that. It was interesting reading the earlier descriptions of Jupiter, and the first being the begetting of children and childbirth and desire and love. And yes, there's a definite association in the past with children and wealth. If you have more children, you have more people working on the land, you have more people to carry on your name, to expand your wealth and improve your status in the community, all great things. But really, having a child is this very, very profound, painful, joyful expansion of both the mother and of the child. And many of us are, have been, will be, could be mothers and experience that type of expansion in the most profound way. It requires a stretching and an expanding, and even in the very point of love making, it requires a surrender, an expansion. And then in terms of the pregnancy growing and developing, getting bigger, and then the process of letting go as well, it all comes back to this Jupiterian quality, which I don't think is often associated with this. Now, not all of us can bear children, but we have all been born. We have all gone through the process of being embryonic and being this kind of floating part of a soul that then comes and finds a body and takes root and grows and develops, and we are imprisoned in the womb, which we then fall in love with. We fall in love with the prison to the point where we really don't want to come out, but there's a expansion quality, there's this tension which makes us want to come out, and it's that strange paradox of desires to both keep oneself safe and humble and inward, and at the same time reach out, expand, and really blindly fumble for something. You have no idea when you're going to be born whether what's on the other side is a wonderful life with mountains and trees, or if it's just complete annihilation. You have no way of knowing that when you're a fetus. Now, bring that forward to the development as a child, how you grow your limbs, how you get stretch marks even from growing so fast, how your hair grows, how your brain and your muscles and your capacity to learn grows every single day, and you have that proven to you. You have that growth mechanism really, really proven, and most of the time it should be the case that it's every day gets better. This leads me on to the next quality laden within Sagittarius and Jupiter, which is the optimist, and that is a positive outlook on expansion, a positive perspective in terms of getting bigger, and it's a bigger, better, brighter. I don't know how many of us really understand how much we prefer Saturn. We really do. It's supposedly contracting and holding us back, but sometimes that's what we want. It's what we need as children. Sometimes we need the reins. We need our parents to put some reins on us, to give us some stabilizers, so we don't completely fly off into the cosmos without any cognitive abilities. So it's that beautiful dance between Saturn and Jupiter which we experience all through our lives. But we have a Jupiter return far more often. Jupiter returns to the point where it was when you were born, every 11.8 years. So this is very different from Saturn, which is only every 29 years. So how do you face each of these Jupiter returns as they come around? It's curious to me that I both discovered astrology in a big way within because it's about a year, more or less, that Jupiter stays in one sign, and during that year I discovered astrology and I met my partner. This is telling because my sun is in Sagittarius, so that's going to involve a lot of Jupiterian qualities, but my Jupiter being in Libra is all about relationships. So when I discovered my astrological chart, and it made so much sense to me, and I saw my Jupiter placement, and I saw Jupiter, expansion, Libra, relationships, expansion through relationships, and since I've met Ricardo, it has been non-stop expansion ever since, and it has been a lot of me fumbling around in the dark, looking to him for reassurance that this spiritual journey is really worth the wait, worth the waiting, and worth the heavy weightedness of having to feel yourself and feel all of your cloying incapability, which is holding you back from this infinite expansion. And he never reassures me. He just allows me to kind of go through the motions, go through the fear, go through the tension, and then I expand. And it's whenever I allow myself to go into that contracted place, that place where it says, no, I can't, that Saturnian place. I've had my Saturn return as well. And I sit in that place and I feel the tension and I feel the opposition and I feel the fact that I really don't want to wait. I don't want to sit around. I don't want to stagnate. Then I've surrendered into that emotion. I let it consume me, and then I'm able to expand. This isn't probably what you wanted to hear about Jupiter, but Jupiter is having the ability and having the willingness to feel all human emotions, to allow everything to consume you, and know that it can never actually consume your true self. It may rip through your body, it may come out in all sorts of strange physical ailments, but the optimism of Jupiter has been a blessing for me in knowing whenever I've had a physical ailment, something come up in the body, something come up in the soul, in the emotional state, just that knowledge that it will pass, because the nature of growth is change, then I can relax into it and I just trust the process. And it's a willingness, so it's not a process that happens on its own, it's a process which you engage, which is the process of growth and expansion, and then you allow that to unfold within your own psyche, within your own soul, and within your own body. But there has to be a willingness. There has to be that will inside of yourself engaged and activated, and we are very, very detuned from our will. It's this extending, outreaching, longing, seeking. It has to do with a willingness to tread softly with giant's feet. There's so many ways that you can expand. You can expand with donuts. Would you like to eat all the donuts in the world? You have the will to do that. Free will. Do it if you want. You also have the ability to expand into infinite consciousness. You equally have that ability and that will within you if you choose to engage it. Both principles are Jupiterian. It's just how you use it. Because I'm tapping so much into my own Jupiter, I feel like in my own journey with this channel, I need to step up to the level that I know I'm capable of and not sell myself short by just telling you how to acquire wealth and how to expand just to increase your confidence, without going into the root of the matter, which is what I'm all about, is getting down into the roots of the issue at hand and expanding from that place, which is messier, which takes more time, which is somehow really not accepted by most of society, but I guarantee you is the thing that will last, and it won't just be a facade that you've perfected. Because a perfected facade will not help you spiritually in the long run. It will be even more difficult to dismantle than it was dismantling the first facades that you encountered. For example, you've discovered that you were someone with daddy issues, and then you felt like, well, I've dealt with those daddy issues by putting that behind me and putting all men behind me, for example, and now I'm a radical feminist and I am this and this is my identity and I'm moving forward from this place with full confidence. No, you still have that wounded little girl inside of you that you need to spend time with and tune into her pain and allow it to pass through you in the ways that it wasn't allowed to be experienced when you were younger. It's no good just finding, and we as humans, the intellect is very, very capable of putting these masks on which do terrible damage and terrible harm, instead of doing that kind of work and then moving from a place where you can then evolve the narrative between men and women. You just sit in that pain but with a mask on top. It's like having an infected wound and just covering it without putting any antiseptic on. Because the other point with Jupiter has a lot to do with the law of attraction. And the law of attraction, as it's taught, tends towards think a certain way, dream a certain way, just wish a certain way, and then you'll get all your hopes and your dreams. But have you questioned your dreams? Have you questioned why you want this? Why do you want this specific woman or man or job in your life? What is it you think you're going to get from it? Because I guarantee you it's just one shade of the truest calling, which is a calling towards peace and humility and that ability to be happy and calm and content wherever you are. And that chasing of goals and just wishing to get what you want, it won't get you what you want, truly. So analyze yourself, analyze your hopes and your dreams, the things you would put on your... There's nothing wrong with making a mood board or a wish board to kind of feel what it is you're more into. But when that's your entire focus, it's very superficial. And the true law of attraction is emotional, and it doesn't just go towards things that you really want in terms of, oh, I love that. It goes towards the lessons you need to learn. So if you are someone who's particularly blocked in one way and you are very adept at avoiding, for example, you don't like confrontation and there's someone who's been trying to have it out with you and you've been avoiding that person, you found ways to block every channel to that person, guaranteed there'll be someone in a different realm of your life who will embody those same questions for you, that same poking, prodding, confrontational energy that you don't want to face until you actually learn to confront it. And that is a loving principle in the universe about expansion and about meaning there is no room you could walk into where you wouldn't feel comfortable, because everything else is closing you down. And it's always emotional, and it's all about the human capacity to feel. and to feel everything, and that is your superpower. Because many times we can be manipulated and controlled because we have a fear of feeling. So if you are not scared of feeling, then no one can get to you, no one can manipulate you, no one can sedate you, no one can give you your addictions and things that will help you avoid these emotions, because you're willing to be here, be present, and feel what needs to be felt. That is an incredibly rare thing to find on this earth. And you end up, when you're moving from this truly emotional place, and emotional doesn't just mean like blubbering about everything and definitely not being a victim and pointing fingers at people all the time, but just being within your emotions and owning them and feeling them as they really are, and not shying away from the emotional experience. You end up with very few friends, you realize, because most people are not willing to live in that state. And this is also part of Jupiter, is learning to be okay alone. If you meet many Sagittarians and many people with 9th house qualities, it is a lot more expanded in terms of a viewpoint. It's not so hung up on familial ties. It's not so hung up on particular friends or the meaning behind the connection. It's more, wow, I learned from that experience and they're still with me in my heart. There's a very large heart here, and it's large enough that you don't need to have physical proximity to people after you've kind of learnt what needs to be learnt. And that's the seemingly tactless nature of Jupiter. But it's just, I'm sorry if my light is too big, if I've grown too big for you to share this space with me, or I can't be in this room anymore. You know, it's too closed down and it's nothing personal. And within that, there's also then the trapping of egotism. There's also the trappings of ego of, I'm fantastic because I'm willing to expand in this way. I'm so great. Look at how big and broad I am. And it's really borrowed light. You've been given this gift from Jupiter to just be able to feel everything and experience everything and show everything, but some days that may feel like it's been taken away because of certain transits. That feeling, maybe, you know, that bravery and that kind of quality of pure optimism may leave you, and you'll be forced to, as part of this process, be forced to comprehend how others may experience the world. So avoid the arrogance, avoid falling into those trappings of the ego, and allow yourself to be humble to the experience, and allow yourself to notice your privilege blind spots. This is something that's happening a lot now, is realizing, oh, I have this privilege and therefore I need to give reparations, I need to pay damages for the fact that I'm, I don't know, white or male or heterosexual, these kind of now dark words. And it's not so much that, it's more acknowledging your privilege and seeing where you have privilege, and then using that privilege you have to then help others, not just feeling bad, feeling guilty, and allowing yourself to be stamped down. That is not going to help anyone. It's this harnessing of inner power, which means you can really see beyond your own external trappings and the trappings of others, and move us in a direction that is far more soul-based. Because how many of us have a soul experience? We drop into what we think is a deeper part of ourselves, which is just the spiritual, it's just the sort of mental and the dreamlike state, which is not really that conscious. Whereas there's a deeper soul space, which is emotional, which is inside, and not many of us will live in that place because it's very hurt and it's very easy to ignore once you start just living up here. And Jupiter wants you to fill out all of your body, and it's why it has such an association with excess and drinking and drugs and over-the-top fashion and all of this, because it's in that lower state, it's just about showing off. It's about showing everything that you have and feeling everything you can feel, but it's a synthetic feeling. It's not your deeper, truer feeling. It's a mask. It's a distraction. The other point with Jupiter is you could be distracted by these lower things, but also don't get distracted by the astrology. Don't get distracted by the goodness of God. Don't get distracted by the beauty of nature. There needs to be a willingness to really reach out into, I have no idea what that is up there. I'm grasping at straws, and a willingness to get your hand burnt if needs be, because of that genuine inner knowing and optimism that the world is good, God is good, is a big risk. Humans don't sing to that tune. That isn't something that resonates for most people, but it's something to start tapping into and considering in your heart, and then allowing yourself to move from that place. Because it's a stretching of the soul, and whatever you think you are, forget it. You're so much more. So don't get trapped in these ideas about my best self. I'm being my best self. No, you're not. You haven't met them yet. You have no idea what your best self looks like. And it's a bit of a slap around the face sometimes from Jupiter to realize that you have all of this within you to expand. And it's like talking to a seed and saying, it's like talking to one of these acorns and just saying, like, yep, you're going to be an oak tree. Like, that's what's round the bend for you. So how are you going to really be able to know? You can try and think that intellectually as an acorn, but how are you going to feel it unless you just let it happen? And it's a process that happens naturally for plants, where they just accept the photosynthesis process. They accept the water, they accept the nutrients and the mycelium and everything that helps them grow into an oak tree. But if they really were there having a thought like, what is going on? They would be probably blocked to it. And no. It's all too much. And that's anti-Jupiter. Because just as much as Jupiter is all about excess and going over the top with drugs and drink and partying and Bacchus and this type of energy, it's just as much to do with the opposite, with sobriety, with being able to be in control of your own will and knowing when to say no and when to say yes, a big yes to life, and the meanings of no and yes. There are some more significations for Jupiter. It's always related with Zeus, and it means alliances, knowledge, friendship, abundance, payments, large gifts, profits, justice. You thought that would have been a more Venusian or Saturnian quality, but no, it's Jupiter. Honors, heads of holy places, inheritances, adoption, confirmation of good things, fellowship, relief, release, freedom from bondage, stewardship of the body, the lord of the outer thighs, the feet. It's very interesting. Sagittarius is always related to the thighs. And internally he is the lord of semen, the womb, the liver, the right side of the body. And it is of the diurnal sect, so of the day, and is of course very theological and philosophical. And how much emotional intelligence do you have? Because you can have your intellect way up here, but if your emotional intelligence is down here, where you think is up here is not really that high. Increase your emotional intelligence to here, and your intellect goes way up alongside it, because when you're emotionally open to things, you're emotionally able to investigate, emotionally able to expand, and therefore your intellect is able to comprehend concepts which it would otherwise be very frightened of, very scared of. And the emotional intelligence is really underrated in scientists, and the most successful scientists, the most forward-thinking scientists have all been able to tune into their emotions and their childlike self. And of course, with a spiritual sense, there can be a zealotry, that spiritual pride, spiritual ego of when you know a few things. Just keep that humility in mind, that I know that I know nothing. I know that I know nothing. Even though there are certain things that you do know, but most of them will be emotional, and they will be from the emotional process, and they will be from observing and observation of things. So there's a saying that Sagittarius is interested in big picture things and a bit generalized, but that's not because they haven't done the research. You know, a true Sagittarian, Jupiterian will have done the research, read it all, and then managed to assimilate the bigger picture from that very mercurial quality. But they don't necessarily want to relay all the details to you because they don't want to get distracted in the minutiae of things. They want to see this kind of overlapping umbrella thing that encompasses the all, which you get when you come up to high places, which you get when you get to see wider perspectives on the universe, which you get when you look through a telescope. Telescope is very Jupiterian, looking out into space and looking out into the space within yourself. So meditating, and it's funny how something so related with partying and excess and joy and jovialness and this, it really benefits from time alone, time spent inwards, time spent fasting, time spent with these emotions that come up when you fast, and not just identifying as being a happy, jolly, happy-go-lucky person, but noticing you encompass absolutely the totality within you, including all of these negative emotions which you've picked up from the collective pain body. We've all got it, so there's no point denying it. There's a point in feeling it, not projecting it out onto others, but just letting it kind of rise and move through you. And then you are invincible, truly invincible. So I will be going through each of the different signs and house placement of this planet, because it does behave in different ways depending on where it is. And I really encourage you to look into Jupiter and investigate in the past when you had your Jupiter returns around the ages of 12, 24, 36 and so on, and see what you were doing at these times. How did this come in to teach you a lesson, and did you take the hands of the lesson, or did you let it pass you by? So thank you so much for joining me here at the top of this hill. I'll see if I can get a little shot of the mountains later. And I'm going to sit here and meditate a while and comprehend the expansion that is possible, and just cultivate the will to open, the will to grow. And whatever we think we are so much more. So please see the website ineffableelse.com. Follow me on Instagram, _ineffable_else, and send me an email if you'd like to have a reading of your own. Thank you. Bye bye.